see we are now live.
Yeah, we are live.
Welcome,
All right.
everybody.
Yeah, welcome. You guys want to introduce yourselves real quick
Do you want
for
to
the
go
people
first,
watching
Victor?
these later?
Hey everyone. My name is Victor. Victor Cardenas from Hold the Pickle.
How long have you been writing the pickle satire?
Since 2022.
Okay, nice. What made you get inspired to start that?
I actually started during a time where I was in the process of getting a divorce, and I was not getting much sleep. And in my sort of past midnight musings, 2, 3 a.m., I was like, I need something to do, and this is something to kind of keep my mind occupied, and I just never stopped.
Nice. I've been doing the halfway post for like 8 years now, since 2017. Um, yeah, I was just inspired by Trump and like the kind of rising fascism, and I don't even know why. Like I just decided to it was just something I thought about for a while. I was like, I should do that, and then I just committed like I don't know 80%, not 100, but pretty solidly, and I just never stopped writing satire since. I don't know. Well, thanks for helping keep the world light. Ben, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I didn't realize that you started so long before the pandemic. You've really been at it for a while. I didn't begin writing online until 2022 myself, and I initially started off in journalism and very quickly realized it would just be a lot more fun to write the things that I wanted to write. And so that was what really began the Medium chapter for me. But on Substack, I'm the owner of the Gen Z Report publication, which is a pretty loose smattering of cultural topics from politics and entertainments to the occasional satire and memoir, and it's a lot of fun.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I've been writing for quite
This
a
is
few
my
years prior
coffee
to
writers.
the pandemic. Oh, hey, special guest appearance here. Nice. What's your dog's name?
Butters.
Butters. Oh, that's right. I think you told me that. Yeah, that's funny.
Because you love
That's a
South
good
Park.
name. Just like South Park.
Yep, he was very much named after the South Park character.
Yeah. Now, do you guys? I see only one person watching. I switched from Wi-Fi to just service on my phone. Do you think that might have impacted it? Do you think maybe we should have more people watching by now?
I see 45.
Oh, okay. Well, then
Yeah,
you're
I see
getting a different
45 as
number than
well.
I am. Okay, cool. Never mind then. False alarm. Mine's stuck at one, I guess. I probably screwed it up by switching to my service. But anyway, I guess we can get back to the main subject. We're kind of having a discussion roughly on the Democrats, right? I think we had some commentary about what Democrats should be doing or should not be doing. How liberal are they? How successful are they? What's the politics of the Democratic Party right now? And maybe just open up the floor with first question for both of you. What is wrong with Democrats and maybe what is right with Democrats? Ben, you want to take that first, maybe? What your opinion?
I think definitely one of the biggest frustrations for me with the Democratic Party lately has been the sense of exclusionary politics and the feeling that if you're not with us on 110% of these issues, then you're against us. And it's frustrating for me how just about anything I say that's a little bit shy of far left will really bring on the ire of my own party. And yeah, I see that more and more as time's gone on, and I think that
Yeah.
Trump has really brought that out of our politics.
Have you had any like pile-ons from like liberals or Democrats, like personally? I mean, I know you're pretty credentially like, liberally minded on most political issues, but
I would say it really is only on social media for most part. Occasionally, it's been in person, but very rarely. I think most of my friends are pretty like-minded politically.
what was the worst transgression you ever did? Got you like a pile on the internet or something. If you want to share and relive the PTSD about it.
I think I briefly mentioned this during our last talk, but I wrote an article called "Trump Supporters Aren't All Evil," and just that notion in itself was enough for somebody to respond. I didn't even read the article. It's so crazy that you would say that. It was all caps. It just
Yeah.
told me things that I was already aware of and already agreed on, and then they ended by saying, "You should stop writing if you've got an opinion like that." And
Yeah.
I
That would be
kind of
funny. I think it'd be cool if social media would not let you publish like a comment on something if you didn't read it. You know how Twitter does the thing like if you're
right.
going to share it, but you didn't click on the headline. It's like, sorry, you have to wait like a minute and a half before you can comment. We can't force you to read it, but we can at least pretend you to sit with it on your screen long enough to pretend you read it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a ton of positive to say about Twitter, but I do like that feature because people will literally just share articles that they haven't
Right.
read, and it's
Yeah.
super.
And then, yeah, their comment is like invalidated by something in the article that they didn't read. Victor, what about you? You can take both of that. What is wrong or right with Democrats? And have you ever had a pile on for something you
Yeah,
said?
I'll be happy to address all the above. So the kind of the reason we all got together was because I was kind of talking to Ben, and he was like talking a little bit about like, hey, our party, and what's happening with the DNC, and I said, I don't have a party. I'm actually a registered independent, and I have been for a long time now. And it turns out that I'm pretty far left compared to how things are going and how they've been. So, one of the things that I think is wrong with them is they kind of lost sight of the working person, the average person, and what's going on with them in their lives. Just like, hey, how are you doing? Are you hungry? How are your kids? That kind of stuff. And that is the biggest criticism I can offer today because they definitely are bought and by the technocrats just the same as the Republican Party, and that's a big issue. I've definitely said a lot of controversial things in the past, in the present, and I will in the future. I can't think of anything right at the moment that has really caused a pile on. Um, Sometimes it's been like more anonymized or pseudonymous, like on Reddit or things like that, But I've definitely, had a opinions that didn't come across very well. Maybe I used my sarcasm and people didn't read into it, that kind of thing. It tends to happen on the internet.
Yeah, and there's a thing on the internet that I hate. It's kind of my pet peeve where it's like, I'm going to say an opinion that is my opinion. And I'm not saying this has happened to me specifically, but a lot of people will do this. Like, here's an opinion about me. And then you get like all of these people that like don't have the same exact life perspective acting like, why didn't you include my pet subject or my, demographic or, my exact lived experience and anecdotal, life memories and stuff like that. Like, why is your specific comment that's just an offhand like casual comment, not perfectly aligned with my life and everything I see fit. So I find that like a little annoying. I'd say that's probably the thing. The pylon that I once got was on Tumblr back in the day, like 2017,
Scary
2018,
place.
as you can imagine. Yeah, scary place back then. But I remember I made this post where it was like Canva, just like clip art of like kids looking happy and holding hands or something. And my comment was something to the effect of like, I hope all racists get like mixed grandkids that they, learn to love and appreciate and not be racist assholes anymore. Something to the effect. And I had all these people of like, I'm a mixed kid and my grandparents never liked me or never welcomed me. And it's like all these things where it's like, that's not really what I was trying to get at. You're kind
Yeah,
of like looking to get angry here. I mean, like, I'm not really wishing that on everybody and everyone to have a bad experience. And the kids in the picture were happy. It was like a happy thought of everyone coming together a little bit. But it's just like that, where it's like, my comment and just like kind of offhand casual joke was not everyone's exact lived experience. So it was on Tumblr too. So just massive amounts of comments of like every, uh, person that had mixed grandkids or somebody was mixed genetically themselves, just like, hopping on. I was like, well, this is annoying. Not what I
there
intended.
definitely is. There those folks were addicted. I mean, it's definitely a lot less popular now, but they were kind of addicted to that grievance culture to some degree. And it was like that
Yeah.
one
I do
platform where
think
they
that's
could say like, "Hey, these are my problems in life, and I want to talk about them all day."
Yeah. Do you think that's part of Democrats' problems? That, I think a lot of like the more woke and extremely like progressive and kind of like puritanical aspects of kind of liberal culture in the last several years probably comes from Tumblr, of just like hyper online people that they all come into these opinions that just like get further and further from real life. And is that why Democrats are kind of losing like working blue collar uh support? Just because it's like you get these like hyper sensationalized people that are just like chronically or terminally online, whatever the term is.
I think the hard part is it's hard to know. Is it that they're terminally online? Are you just like some nerd behind a keyboard? Or are you someone who's, I don't know, not had something to eat for dinner or been homeless before or whatever, and you just have like that, that kind of that the childhood, the challenging childhood, you go into
Right.
adulthood and you still have like kind of that chip on your shoulder. And I've had some brushes with
Yeah,
things
that's a
like
good point.
that. Something came up just randomly. watching someone else's live, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I was a kid when I was in grade school. Sometimes I would get the free lunch, which is like a peanut butter sandwich and like an apple and like a milk. You know what I mean? And you could just see like
Hmm.
who got the free lunch. It's so obvious. Like you didn't get hot food, and I was like, yeah, that was like humiliating and a challenging part of my life. And I think about it, and it's like no wonder I get mad when people don't have food. No wonder I feel like a little bit of angst and anxiety about what's going to happen in a few days when SNAP benefits run out for millions of Americans, including working Americans. Um, I think that there is an element of out of touch coming from the DNC, but again, it's the people that are representing the people that truly matter, the people on the street. They're super rich. They have millions upon millions of dollars. They know about things before we do. They can make stock market maneuvers and things like that. And of course, they have an above average income just from being a politician and connections. So they continue to make money throughout their lives. They're not going to know hunger. They're not going to know pain the way a regular person can. And it's them. It's them. Now they'll say all the right things, but they don't do all the right things. To me, what's most important is do you do the right things? I'm not really into like cancel culture in the sense that you if you say the wrong thing, you're out. You need to be out. Ben, you're out. You're too privileged. I don't really believe in that, but I think that it's do you believe in helping people? Do you believe that everyone should have equal access to education? Things like that. That the politicians do not really touch on right now.
Yeah, it does feel like there's a very recurrent sense of among a lot of people of you are too white and too male to have these opinions right now. Step aside for more marginalized voices.
Yeah. So Ben, you mentioned that before. Um, do you feel like that is a message that you're getting constantly?
I wouldn't say I'm inundated by it, but it does seem like it's a bit of a principle a lot of people have quietly taken hold of.
Yeah. So like maybe someone like me, I don't know. You're a white male, but you're darker than I am. I'm mixed. I'm Mexican. I got some indigenous, and I have a lot of European in me, but it's Spanish mostly. And I'm maybe not even as dark as you. So I'm like, when you're like, I'm a white male, it's like, what is a white? That thing that comes up. How about you, Dash? Do you have the same experiences? Do you get told like, hey, you shouldn't be in these spaces. You don't need. Why are you talking for us?
No, I don't really get told that. I'm not that active in like real like political organizing though. I'm kind of like just a shit poster online. But I feel anecdotally, I don't really get that at all. In terms of like people telling me to shut up. But I feel like I'm usually, especially in a big group, I'm like the person that will speak last and just listen to everyone's opinions anyway. And I feel like, that's a good life hack for anybody anyway. That's like if you listen to everyone's opinions, you sound smarter because you've just heard every opinion and now you can like consolidate them all. So I do think there's a big thing of like, over the last like 10 years or whatever, like white people in particular, I think it's good. Like it's kind of been like shut the fuck up for like 1 second, for a couple years, and like obviously, unfortunately, the reason of that is Trumpism and like MAGA fascism, because like I think there's a like the disgruntled white population in America that clearly has that conservative kind of MAGA um like hatred kind of for like the changing country in a way, or not hatred, maybe that's too strong a word, but the fear or mistrust of just in America that no longer looks like their 1950s Christmas specials where there's like gay people don't exist, there's no black people, no Mexicans in America, just everything's white and waspy. um but so like I guess I don't have like personal experience with that, but I would have to say culturally, I mean, I guess you can't argue that like maybe, and especially in democratic politics, where like I show Ben the kind of millennial white male is almost like more liberal than most other demographics right now. And then this the last election, like millennial white males, like they had the sharp or had the least like turn toward like Trump in terms of the vote share, I think. But I guess I'm rambling for a little bit, but I don't know. Does that any of that make sense? I have like too many strands I could go off into and like totally change like where I'm headed. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Did any of that? synthesize anything for you?
Yeah, these political chats can be very tangential. I definitely know what you mean. I always
Yeah,
start on one point and then quickly segue onto the next and onto the
right.
next, and I'm just like, am
But
I making
yeah,
sense here?
I guess my point though is that politically, I do think Democrats just get wrapped around the wheels or the axle so much on uh, demographic politics and minority politics. And I think, but it's weird because it's annoying because Republicans just get a total pass to do nothing but identity politics. They're really only white,
Yeah,
male, patriarchal, Christian culture wars that they just constantly fight. But then Democrats are obviously going to be imperfect, being the big umbrella tent for everybody else. And then it's just sad that like we're all on the same team, but like it's like the Ezra Klein or the idea of the groups, all of these groups that are just like withholding votes from the Democrats, having their voting for Democrats or like progressive candidates. And it's like, I don't know. So now we're stuck, for whatever bad or good that cause, like we have Trump for another 4 years. And, I don't know, is American democracy over because of that? Did Democrats like really lose the thread in the elections? I don't know. Victor, you have any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah. Um, I think sometimes there's always that concern, right? That the coalition is going to eat itself, right? The different factions are going to tear each other apart, and we'll never get what
Right.
we want as a whole.
Would you say we did that several times now, with Hillary, with Kamala, losing to what would seem like very winnable elections against just a buffoon?
Yes. I would just say those people are like they're very polished. Again, like they haven't known as much struggle in their lives, or it's been a long time since they've had struggle, and they're like not close to people who are struggling, because that's something that really unites people, is like just taking care of people, making sure they're okay. That's where they like have really lost the plot. And guess what? Like Elon Musk, he was a darling of the the DNC for years, and then he switched sides. So it kind of shows like, hey, these people, these well-heeled individuals, these rich millionaires and billionaires, right? To put it like Bernie puts it, those are the people that are they are controlling what's going on, and they have swung things because they saw that there's a power that they can collect for themselves. Um, and I think there's a lot of worry that, what if we worry too much about trans people in bathrooms or whatever, like we're gonna lose the plot. Like it's about Medicare for all or something. And to me, like these are really easy things. Like don't bother people who are going to the bathroom. Um, if you're gonna make bathrooms a problem, make them all like single gender, single person, or single person, no gender bathrooms. The end. Like don't make it a big deal. Um, and what I see from like Hillary, Kamala, is you can just see like they're going to be more comfortable at the French Laundry than they are at the Denny's up the road or the Waffle House. And I think that to if you really want to connect with people, you have to understand that the people that you're serving might live a very different life from you. That's not a life of privilege. And that doesn't mean that Hillary or Kamala always led a life of privilege, but they have both been in politics for such a long time and amassed lots of wealth and power and connections that at some point they kind of lost the plot.
I've been going to the gym more recently, and I always get into these interesting political conversations with people. One of them that stuck with me,
At the
I was
gym?
talking with a political science major, and he was pretty left leaning himself, but he was explaining to his wife how the different parties work, and said the Republicans are basically a party of snakes, and the Democrats are a party of snakes wearing party hats. And I think there's some real truth in that sometimes, in that a lot of the people on our side really pretend as though they're politicians in particular pretend as though they really understand the common man's concern. And it's very telling that we haven't outlawed insider trading yet, because these people do very much value their wealth at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Yep.
part's ridiculous. Like why they should all be millionaires doing these obvious insider trading deals. But what is the alternative though? Like, how do you get grassroots people to run that? Like you have to have independent wealth for most people, you have to have independent wealth to run, to not work, to spend like a year and a half running for something, right? Like, how do you get like truly working class people into politics, or do those people even want to be in politics, really?
Well, let's look at
I guess it's open ended.
the most popular politicians in the DNC right now. Like three of the top five are Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and freaking Mamdani. So what's going on? Like, are they all like backed by Peter Thiel like billionaires, or are they taking a lot of small donations and like going out and taking their message to the people? And I think that is the way forward. That's what needs to be happening. Bernie just so happens to be an independent caucusing with the Democrats, kind of like how I would like. I'll go and I'll vote for Democratic candidates as an independent. That's that's something we need a little bit more of because it takes our power back. It's not giving energy to the party that's going to go ahead and just like make a bunch of deals with data centers to raise your electricity bills. You know what I mean? Just the kind of stuff that goes on that's like that both parties would support because it's a job creator. You know.
So,
Meanwhile, your electricity bill shoots way up, and these AI folks are angling for a way to get rid of your job.
So would you say then that you see a path toward a future in which the two parties aren't controlled so heavily by billionaires?
I want to see that. I think
Yeah.
that there's energy right now and that there's passion in that. I think a lot of times people think like, "Oh, like these people have their heads in the clouds. They don't know what's going on." You have to you if you need to go in the back room and you need to snort all that coke right now,
Yeah.
and head out to that party and
Mm.
pop the champagne. But no, like it's okay. It's okay to have a coalition. Like let's get a big ass coalition together. Let's get someone who's trans. Let's get someone who has family members from Venezuela that got killed or whatever, right? Like let's get a coalition of Americans from all different places, all different situations, and say, hey, we want some really basic things. We want like public transit if we can get it. Like let's get public transit. Hey, let's get dental care for everyone. Why is that like an optional thing? Like you need use your teeth every fucking day. Like where's the I guess there's like I would want to see a little bit more energy out of the party. And I think you don't get that with the people that are centrists currently because the party has shifted to the right as the Republicans have shifted to the right. And so you need people that are more like those extreme left people.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're necessarily extreme left. I think some of their ideas are very good. And I think some of those ideas are worth fighting for. All of us to have individual dignity sounds great. Sign me up.
Yeah, sometimes I feel very jaded by the idea that our party's success still hinges so much on these nefarious billionaires that all I can do is argue, "Oh, our nefarious billionaires are better than your nefarious billionaires." And it's yeah, extricating money from politics, I would love to believe is possible, but I feel as though ever since Citizens United, it's a bit more of an undertaking than this country is going to be amenable to.
there's the thing I saw that there's like a new state strategy to have the states block some of the things that like Citizens United allows, and it has to do with the way like states like organize or officially like have corporations or businesses or something like that. I need to do more research, but I guess I just read kind of like a new at the state level, but I don't know. That would be cool because Citizens United for sure, like the corporations or people with free speech is like, just
Yeah.
like what could go wrong? Now fast forward all these years
Yeah,
later, it's like, yeah, it went wrong exactly the way everybody thought it would.
right.
But do you think is there a way though? What's the practical way to do that though? I mean, how are you going to reform elections like in this Congress? Like, I think that's maybe a big issue with like where the Democratic Party should go. Is it the pie in the sky ideas of what we want, or is it the pain, brutal reality that we have like a truly radical Republican Party that is kind of hijacking our democracy and not going to go along with any of this? They'll filibuster or whatever. Like, Like, should Democrats, the next time they get control of Congress, end the filibuster and just start passing anything they want, and just kind of go nuclear, so to speak?
And there's an analogy I heard presented before the election that I think a lot about. So basically, would you rather have stale bread or would you rather have broken glass for your next meal? And it really does come down to that a
Yeah,
lot of the
right.
time. I don't love a lot of the Democrats that are running our country right now, but there's hardly a one of them that if they were on the top of our ticket, I wouldn't still pretty happily vote for them. If it's someone as far to the left as we can get, I'd be equally eager to cast my vote. But I want whatever politician is electable enough to end this nightmare.
Do you want to name any names of who should leave? Like, I don't know, should John Fetterman be reelected? He's kind of going a little centrist, a little bit all over the place, a little anti-party, maybe.
Yeah, as a Pennsylvanian, he has been such a colossal disappointment. We really had very high hopes for him, but yeah, I never really anticipated with the way he presented himself prior to the election that he would make such a dramatic 180. But
Yeah.
yeah, he really is. Yeah, he's got to go. He's got to go.
He had a health issue,
Yeah, I
right?
think I
Some kind of
he had a
issue.
stroke or
Stroke,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
it can change your personality a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do have to wonder.
I have a theory that yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you do have
Think
to
What
we're
were you
gonna,
gonna
wonder
say,
because
Ben?
it's
yeah.
just such a dramatic shift in his politics. Like the fact that he had that stroke right around then, it's I don't want to say oh the stroke is why he's Republican, but you do kind of have to wonder because the shift really did happen right around then.
Yeah. But how much do you think Democrats, I feel like Democrats are way less nationalistic in how they vote and their policies because right now, with the just natural gerrymander of the Senate that Republicans have, because you get all these really tiny rural states and like combined have less population than like a major city and, a bunch of blue states. So, like, how much of the problems that we have are that Democrats are just more, um, in danger of like the political day racing and the horse race of politics and like obviously Fetterman in a state that Trump won like twice, right? I mean, he's got just a different calculus on everything he does. You get the rural states where they might be liberal but they've got a bunch of farmers or something in their state or coal mines or whatever. I feel like just Democrats, especially in the Trump era, have just been way more like endangered by just the climate or the temperature of the political atmosphere.
Do you want to speak to that, Victor?
Any
Yeah.
thoughts?
Um, okay, so the statement was basically about the political atmosphere of the DNC, what's going on. Uh,
Or is there anybody you'd kick out of Congress? Like I think whoops, sorry.
it's less,
I think there's a gerontocracy,
yeah.
and I think if you're over 70, you should not run for reelection or 75. I don't know what the year should be, but like Bernie Sanders is going to run again. I love him, but like, come on, he's going to be like
He's
90
slowing down.
when he was like running for reelection.
He's
Yeah, I
slowing
mean,
down.
I,
Yeah, there's a time where your body gets tired and you need to take a nap in the middle of the day. And I'm already there, so I can't be the senator for California, my state. Um, but yeah, there we need to talk about. I think yeah, the Dash. You really brought up something important here. Right now, what we have is a gerontocracy, and there is a void of youthful people with energy, people who, when they look left and right, their friends don't have three, four, five homes. They are just getting started in life, and they're dealing with kind of the ups and downs. And of course, not everyone's going to have a perfect life and have multiple houses or even one house in their life, right? But like, what's going on with them? They're more likely to be working closer to minimum wage jobs. They're more likely to be struggling to make their bills as a young person. So I would like to see a lot more young people and some supplanting of these older folks. Harry Hogg had a great idea, and that got him the boot, kind of from the party, but he's still around. But his idea was essentially this: take look at all the safe seats for the Democratic Party. Okay, look who's there, and if they aren't kind of like moving to the left or have like some kind of understanding of where the party needs to go to actually be successful and not just be like a shitty clone of the RNC that isn't as racist. Um, but just like get him out, basically. Yeah, get him out. Um, and I love this idea. I think this is exactly what needs to happen. We need people with energy. We need people who are a little bit different. We need lots of representation from lots of different places. There's no one like really that comes specifically to mind because so many of them are forgettable. So many politicians are absolutely forgettable. And that's what makes like an AOC kind of remarkable, right? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
she was a waitress
Name
right
both
before
senators from
things
North
kind of kicked off.
Dakota.
Yeah.
Yeah, AOC is someone who's routinely impressed me over the years. Bernie Sanders, though, I admit that I've begun to view a bit as a one-trick pony. He's got one issue that he speaks very cogently to, and it is very, very rare that I'll ever hear him verge from that economic talk point. I do wonder about his ability to. I think he can at least handle the position he's in, but if he were to ever be on top of that presidential ticket again, oh man, or even just running for president, I would hate to see. I think that he's just too old, and like you said, he probably needs 2 or 3 naps to make it through the day. I think he's
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think is a good strategy for Democrats? Like, is it going with a lot of independents that will not necessarily be Democrats, but they can throw their support in states like Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, like Graham Plattner in Maine is another one. Like, they've got some good candidates like Roy Cooper running in North Carolina, Sherrod Brown running again in Ohio. Both of those guys are very popular in the states, pretty progressive, I think, especially Sherrod Brown. But like, I mean, is the Democratic brand just so toxic in these red states that like the best thing to do is just get an independent that's not going to have a D next to their name, so you get all the Republicans with just their Pavlovian brainwashing of like communists, socialists, you're gonna steal our guns, hates God, all that stuff. Like, there's just so much baggage that I don't even feel is really deserved or fair against Democrats. But
Yeah.
I mean, if it'll win us Senate seats, like, hey, let's just get some rando guys, or girls or whoever, and just hopefully they're exciting on their own and not give them any, not tie them with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know that they necessarily need to have a bunch of independents caucusing with the party. I think they could have definitely people that are just primarying people that are already in the party. That
Yeah, but I
is
think in some states, if you have a D on your name, you're going to win 30% to 70%. You know what I mean? If you have the D,
okay.
um,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I mean, what Democrat are they going to put in Nebraska that's going to have any chance to win? I mean, even now, I mean, I actually have a note here that like Kansas, Nebraska, and Iowa and Minnesota, like a lot of these soybean states, especially, are like basically in a depression right now. So I don't know. Maybe things will be wild in this next midterm, and we'll get some surprising upsets just because Republicans have just like destroyed these states and these tariffs, which have no end in sight, that are like literally ruining, tens of thousands of farmers' livelihoods. So,
Yeah.
but again, it's like the brainwash, not the, brainwashing might be intense, but like the branding problems Democrats have it's insane. Republicans are like just ruining so many Americans' like livelihoods, the tariffs and everything, like the imports, like any company that takes in inputs from, parts that they have to source around the world. Like anybody that wants to manufacture here has no idea what the climate or the business, the tariffs are going to be in 6 months, let alone 4 years to build a factory. Like there are so many people that are just getting royally fucked. And it's like, it's amazing that it's like the European idea that it's like, American elections come down to puppies for everybody versus eat vomit. And it's it's like 49, 51% in our elections. And it's like, I feel that way so much.
I'm in for the puppies. I want a puppy.
Yeah, right.
Give me a puppy dish.
I don't know. What do you think Democrats can do to fix their brand? Just have new candidates like Obama, like some outsider, just come in and kind of totally remake the party in a much more progressive way. Is it AOC running? I mean, she seems a little young, and I don't know if she'd really want to run. And in 2028, it seems a little early for that. But everyone said that about Obama too. So
She's definitely the spiritual successor to Bernie. I would say that she has been prevented by the party from having, positions of power, uh, which is a real irony. Here you have this young woman that can speak very well and is a person of color, comes from a working class background, like kind of did things her way and has this measure of success and gets stomped down by the white gerontocracy
Yep.
plutocrat lovers at the top of the party. And it's like, yeah, okay, this is what it is. This is what the DNC has become. Um, and I guess they don't necessarily need to be white, right? Like Hakeem Jeffrey's not white, but he kind of he's another plutocrat lover, you know. And I think it's just time to say like, hey, if you love robber barons more than you love the people you're supposed to represent, like, see ya. We don't need you. We don't want you. We're gonna find someone else, whether they're in the party or whether they're just outside of the party. We're gonna find them. Obviously, you know, many people have talked about the fact that having two primary parties is already kind of an issue. There's been lots of talk about like, can we have a third party? Can we have a fourth party? It seems like it's never happening. So in the meantime, all I know is the people that have sworn their allegiance to the richest people in the world constantly, they are ruining us. They are ruining us. They are the reasons that the reason that millions of people are going to go hungry in just a few days.
Yeah, I'm,
Well,
I'm
how
of
do you
two
beat
minds
the?
on the issue because
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been eager for a long time to see us evolve beyond a two-party system, and it feels in many ways like we really are at that point where the Democratic Party is just needs to splinter off into two. But I keep returning to that other idea I mentioned earlier, where we've just grown to depend so much on the big money of the DNC that I don't know if it's worth going on this side mission right now when what matters the very most is for us to just be electable again, for us to just win in 2026 and again in 2028.
So here's what's important. The DNC itself uses all the money they get, right, from these super PACs to push down the people that would supplant them
Yeah.
and convince you that we're the reasonable alternative. Look at me, I tuck my shirt in. Who gives a fuck if you tuck your shirt in? Like, I don't care. Like, what's going on? Like, can people get health care? That's what I want to know. Can we have some health care, please? Like, let's just keep it simple. I think that's the messaging is really weird, and it's like a stodgy professor like smoking a pipe, like 1930s kind of thing, walking around lecturing people about why, you know, we need to have additional signers on this bill, and let's just modify it just a little bit because we want to play nice. And like, no, like, let's just get people like the let's get the basics first before we start doing all this stuff. It just starts to be like too many cooks and too many pork laden bills and things like that. Where's the
Yeah,
basics?
but how do you get around the sausage making of politics that you have to have money for elections? You have to talk to billionaires. You have to go talk to the Chamber of Commerce. You have to get all of these giant corporations that are, responsible for massive chunks of the GDP of the country and job growth. Like,
Yeah,
how do you do the sausage making of politics without playing in the game as it exists within the system? And
yeah, you got to play a little
how do
bit.
you
You're right, Josh.
Yeah.
Ezra Klein talks about, yeah, because political parties, their whole goal is to win elections and get their
Yep.
candidates in, right? And like, I would say maybe compared to you, I'm a little pissed of Democrats losing elections, not getting people like liberals in the EPA and the Justice Department. And I feel like a lot of it has to do with like team killing in terms of like the internal Democratic politics that aren't so much about like the gerontocracy or the moneyed interest, because those things are like things that help you win the election. But it's just, when we lose 2% to Jill Stein because Democrats are not unelectably liberal enough, you know what I mean? Like every 4 years, that's twice that we've lost to Trump on, within the margin of error, or not margin of error, but the margin of vote difference between like the Green Party and what is it, Marianne Robinson or whoever.
Let's let,
But it's like, I want to win, it's like the goal of the party is to win elections and fill out the government. And unfortunately, like, I don't know, I guess we're like right on the line now. We're between, going all in on a centrist approach, which lost kind of with Hillary and Kamala. They were both like a little more centrist than most of the candidates they ran against. And certainly Kamala was, especially being a continuation of the Biden administration. But like, I want to win elections, and it's, there's so much Democratic infighting, and kind of like the theme was like, the Puritan aspect to like, no one's perfect, so let's just, burn everybody who, every Democrat is not unelectably like saintly progressive enough on every single issue. I'm just tired of losing, and then we have fascists filling out the EPA. the DOJ, the FBI, CIA, military. It's like that's bad for everybody in the umbrella of the Democratic Party. The fact that they are not because Democrats are too centrist or too, moneyed interest to earn their votes or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm always for let's get 80% of what we want and go from there instead of now, with Trump, we have 4 years of negative 80% because he's undoing democracy, you know?
We're not going to burn down the party. I don't think. Yeah, it's got to be how it is to some degree. But again, like if people start seeing that they're getting primaried, if people start feeling that pressure in safe seats, that's a great way to go. It's solid. It's a solid plan. If we know it's safe, if it's like out here in my area in California, I'm in the capital region, there's a lot of safe seats nearby. And we have people that do nothing except for, I don't know, sign bills that send bombs to other countries. And there's definitely money that could be used for other stuff. It's just a matter of priorities. And how do we prioritize?
So, how do you guys feel about our prospects for 2026?
I
I
think
saw a poll that like Democrats are like +9 kind of like on the generic ballot, which maybe seems a little high, but I mean, I would have to imagine closer to the actual election, Trump is just, the tariffs are going to hurt so many people. The chaos is going to piss off so many people. Like a lot of MAGA people will just not vote because it's a midterm. And hopefully the no kings just keep going every few months and growing, like an extra million people each time.
yeah, I think we have to be willing to accept the people that went MAGA back into the fold and be
Yep.
like, look, we can get these things for you. We can get these things back. There's a lot of people that thought that they weren't going to be affected by what was happening and it would just help them concentrate their wealth. And then we have seen how MAGA, even if you're in MAGA, right? If you're MAGA and you're a black woman, if you're MAGA and you're a trans white woman, it doesn't matter. Like they're gonna chew you up and spit you out. If you're MAGA and you're an Indian, we've seen all of that. They're gonna tear these folks apart. It happens every time. Um, and we, as much as like some of their politics have been detestable and contemptible, like we all have a right to exist and we need to fight for that world where everyone at least has the very basics covered. We need that.
Yeah, I feel as though I'm feeling pretty hopeful right now for the 2026 election, and I really feel as though our last few elections, especially the last two presidential elections, have been decided almost entirely by Americans' short-term memory. I think that the reason that Trump lost by such huge margins in 2020 was because of the pandemic and all the issues that stemmed from it, and Americans were very in touch with how awful it was to live through that godforsaken year. And I think if the same thing happened again with Biden being voted out of office, or Kamala losing the election, rather, where people were just so in touch with the inflation and the relatively benign, if you ask me, issues that we dealt with under Biden, that they said, "Oh, we need anyone different than this." And I think that going into 2026, like you say, Americans are going to be so steeped in the awful realities that these tariffs and SNAP benefits and whatnot have wrought, that we will pretty sweepingly vote for Democrats, I think, this time around.
Well, how do you think the shutdown is going for Democrats? Like I kind of had a suspicion that Democrats would just eat shit on this and like just get blamed for it, but I think they've been like really solid on message. And I feel like I personally don't see many people even talking about the shutdown. I guess when these flights start getting delayed and with the FAA, that's going to be a big thing. The SNAP issues, the food stamps and everything and welfare, of course. But once you start getting all the videos of like planes narrowly missing, and I fly a lot, it's like pretty
Yeah.
scary. Like you're kind of just a sitting duck in a plane, like, I hope the FAA is like monitoring that plane coming at us or the runway right now. But what do you guys think is like the general mood of the country, though? I mean, like, obviously, it's going to be a midterm year. I think people like kind of shut down out of politics. Like I was kind of not surprised Trump won again. Just like I travel a lot for work and you just see, MAGA flags. You get the people just coming up to you in public and just ranting at you about like Nancy Pelosi or something. So I was like kind of, I definitely thought Kamala had a good chance and deserved to win and was obviously the better qualified person.
Yeah.
But like with your friends and family, like are they MAGA and like turning away from MAGA? Are you just surrounded by a bunch of liberal Democratic people? Like, what's your vibe of like the national discourse? I guess.
Yeah, I feel the same way as you on that point. With the media that I consume, it was very easy to believe that, oh, Kamala has this in the bag. She's definitely going to win this by a wide margin. But traveling around the country and even going to other countries, I was surprised at how much support Trump had retained in after all of the chaos. And yeah, and Twitter is another huge case study for me, where every single time I would open that app, I would see that the Republicans were taking control of these narratives that I thought were that they lost control of, and it's discouraging. It's as discouraging to see as it is enlightening, because it's very easy to believe watching MSNBC and seeing seeing what I do on social media apps that Democrats had this in the bag when that was not at all the case.
Yeah, I think the media is just such an unfair advantage for Republicans because they just, I mean, from talk radio to Fox News, they just have like perfected kind of like the just all saturation, everyone on the same page, same talking points. And, I'm sure like, I think for sure we've seen evidence of like Fox News, like, giving talking points to Republican politicians and vice versa. And, like Sean Hannity is, they like when they get sued in lawsuits, they say they're entertainment and they're not really news, But like Democrats, just really, there's nothing that comes close to like just the narrative control that Republicans have in the entire kind of conservative like bubble, There's no democratic bubble. Everything is so fragmented. And then I just think Democrats and liberals have like more diverse diets anyway, where they're not just like mainlining Fox News all day or just on, Ben Shapiro's podcast daily. Like I feel like, liberals are like much more likely to be like New York Times and then be complaining that New York Times isn't liberal enough, and NPR, and like NPR is not even really partisan. So it's just like the media ecosystem and like diet of conservatives is just so different, and it just it makes it so hard culturally for Democrats to get through with messaging. And I think in terms of like the gerontocracy and finding exciting candidates, it's like screw raising money. It's like if you can get attention and views and clicks on YouTube and online, that should be who wins the primary, because the money will probably follow that if you're good at getting attention.
Yep.
But like, no offense to like whatever Democratic person who's like 75 probably, that is like the senator of like Connecticut that I can't even name. Like, what is that guy doing for the party? You know what I mean? Like, I've never heard of him. Is he making waves anywhere? Is he getting any attention? And I think Trump proves like Trump, really barely had any money, and he didn't even want to spend his own money to help elect him. But he was just so good at just stealing all the oxygen in the entire like national debate and discourse. But like, hey, fucking worked for him. He won twice.
Yeah. He's a pugilist. I mean, and the work he did the first time around just carried him the second time around. He was so popular. He was unstoppable in the party.
Yeah.
In his party. And we honestly
2016,
we need
though, talk
a
about
little bit of that.
collapse.
We need a little bit of that. Hey,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
your life better right now? Like right now, it's how many months has it been? Is your life getting better or is it getting worse? Well, what are the ways it's gotten better, or what are the ways it's gotten worse? And just be real with
Well,
people.
yeah. Who's doing that well? Is Gavin Newsom the front runner for 2028? Is it JB Pritzker because they're good at, kind of like hitting back?
Man, everyone's in for like a good like clip. You know what I mean? A good clip. We see it with Jasmine Crockett all the time. She's got so many quotables, and then it's just like, well, what are you like? What are you doing? Like, where's the substance? You know what I mean? We need the people that, I don't know. Gavin Newsom is whoever's writing his tweets and stuff. They're great. Is Gavin Newsom great? I don't know. Like, he's definitely well connected with in these political circles, right? Um, He's kind of greasy. He's kind of slick back. He's hanging out with Bannon or whatever. Uh, I'm not a huge fan of our governor. I think that Pritzker, again, issues like he's already super wealthy, right? He's got his. So when is he going to turn on everyone else? I guess is what I'm worried about. I want to see I want to see someone who's been in some shit, who's lived life, who's lived through challenges and overcome. That was the hope that Obama promised. That was the hope, right? I'm a multiracial kid. My dad wasn't around, right? All that stuff. Um, and I grew up and I got into grassroots organizing and now I'm here. And it was like, yeah, this guy's pretty awesome, you know?
Have,
Where's
have you
that?
guys have you guys come across the everyone is 12-year-old theory?
Yeah.
I I feel like Gavin Newsom is somebody who really acts in accordance with that, especially with this recent feud with Trump, where he's posting these all caps tweets and just outright mimicking Trump. And I think it really speaks to the fact that our political discourse has devolved to a point where you really do need to just speak to the lowest common denominator of society and resort to these 12-year-old insults because that's what so many people understand and what so many people are
Yeah.
voting on.
Well, is that different though than regular? I mean, if you look at like all the shit Roger Stone has done, like the stuff, like George W. Bush's campaign was putting out that like John McCain, like what was it
Yeah.
about his like adoptive daughter? There was like something weird or crazy about that. Like I feel like politics has always kind of been like that. You look at like the founding fathers, they like literally believe like Thomas Jefferson was like Satan, and they were like, like back before the days of any fact checking, when just anyone with a printing press could, publish any pamphlet and put it anywhere. Like the insane shit they said about like our earliest presidents, kind of pales in comparison to like what we do now, or vice versa, Um, but yeah, I don't know, but does it win though? I mean, Gavin Newsom, he's greasy. He's ambitious and wants to be president. But like,
Yeah.
what other Democrat is getting more clicks and views? You know what I mean? Like, what
Yeah.
what other person in the Democratic Party is convincing these moderates that just don't really have an opinion, but just see, oh, finally they're seeing Newsom's tweets and like, making, it's making them laugh. And like, I don't know, is that the sausage making that, makes a coalition, that makes a minority party take majority control for the first time? And, overdue for more progressive government, at least to some degree more than Trump is capable of?
We'll see who comes to the fore, but if it's Gavin Newsom, I'm gonna vote for him.
Yeah.
As much as I have distaste for him, and as much as I think like he could be
Yeah.
a better person and do more and not just be, the pretty prototypical rich person, um, I would vote for him. Yeah.
Yep.
So I
Well,
guess what I'm
yeah.
saying is, like not everyone has to majorly conform to my leftist views. Um, However, I really for local politics and regional politics, I really want to see those people because they push the president. They push on the president to think about their constituents. So the people who are closest to the constituents, those people need to be not center right, which is where the DNC has gone, but they need to be left of center. And they also need to be centered on the basics. Do you have a house over your head? Do you have a job? Do you have daycare if you have children? Do you have food on the table? Those things, the access to those things are the most important thing for absolutely everyone. Where are the people that are talking about this? Like those people are further left. They're criticized, right? That's a Mamdani.
Well, I feel like most Democrats are like, all I hear is table issues, and to the point where I'm annoyed by it because and I was kind of wrong, but I really thought like Kamala Harris's like campaign with Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney was like a good idea, and that it would probably get a lot of patriotic, be like center right Republicans or moderates to be like, yeah, Trump's too dangerous. But I was wrong about that, so I don't know. She lost, and maybe it would have been a good strategy for her to tack more to the left and maybe like, throw off the Biden baggage and be like, I'm going to be my own person and be more progressive. Like she obviously, her background is way more progressive coming from California and being the
Yeah.
attorney general and, senator from California. and like a cop, but or a prosecutor rather. Um, so I don't know. So I guess that was like I think I was wrong in 2024, and so I guess in 2028, I guess I will. I'm more looking forward to a more decidedly progressive and leftist Democratic candidate rather than going again like the centrist route, which has not been effective. But would you say that how do you think the demographics of the person should come into play? Like the joke that, they need to like the whitest malest candidate possible to go after Republicans. Do you think, after like two women losing, should it be like Gretchen Whitmer or something like that? Like, I don't know. How do you think like the kind of demographic politics that are to some, I guess it's the more professorial. Ben, you're nodding your head. Do you have something to add to this?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think like just really focusing on the demographics and the background of the candidate they ultimately run is a lot less important than that candidate represents absolutely everyone.
Yeah, Pete
Absolutely
Buttigieg.
everyone.
Pete Buttigieg is someone who I've been really excited by as a person. And if you were on top of the ticket, another person who I would so happily vote for. But I kind of have the same fears around him that I do around Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and that I did around Harris, in that I just fear that in this country, in this point of time, we're not open enough to it, and that it may just need to be the whitest, malest candidate who's got a chance of winning. And I hate to say that, but Newsom has struck me as one of the people who's got the strongest chance to stand up to Trump's brash stupidity.
I think the other thing is for
Yeah, I
Kamala,
mean,
she didn't have it. She didn't get a fair shot. She didn't have the
That's true.
long runway for
That's
her
true.
political campaign. I'm again, Kamala being, hanging out with Gavin, right, in San Francisco. Like, I'm not a big fan of Kamala either, I guess, is what I'm saying.
do you think she should
But
run again? Do you think she should run again?
Jeez, she
Do you
just
think it would
came
go
off
well
as
for her if
so
she ran
would
again?
whoever ran her campaign, I hope they never work in politics again because that was
Well, it's all
god awful.
Democrats. They all do that. They
Yeah,
poll test
Yeah.
everything, and it's like, watching the
no,
videos. It's so annoying when it's like every Democratic answer in a debate you have to do like 10 caveats first of like, first off, I'm a white
Yeah.
male. I don't know all these. It's just you have to like run. Like the land acknowledgement. Like 45 seconds later, you're finally getting to the point of the question, and I feel like that's something that is like that authenticity problem that Democrats just struggle with compared to Republicans, because
yeah,
for some reason a Republican just saying racist, sexist shit. It's like he's authentic. He tells it like it is.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
then, Democrats go way overboard, and they're so politically correct that like everyone's falling asleep, and that it's just a struggle for Democrats always.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, even in the course of our discussion, like, I dropped a couple of F-bombs, maybe more than a couple. And do people find me like a little bit more likable, a little bit more relatable? Like, hey, I'm pissed off, maybe I'm a little agitated sometimes. Like, that's relatable. I kind of think, yeah, you should not have to run every aspect of your campaign through a filter. And you
Yeah.
could just be like, God, my back hurts today, and I'm kind of annoyed at this guy. Like you should be able to do that and
Yeah.
just be a little bit more
Yeah.
human. I think that's a great thing for all political candidates of all parties.
I feel like the whole
Yeah.
everyone
I
is
guess that's,
I feel like the whole everyone is 12-year-old now theory kind of ties into the premise of the movie Idiocracy. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that, but it's basically built on the
yeah.
idea that America has just gotten stupider and stupider, and our IQs lower and lower, to the point where we're all drinking Mountain Dew instead of water and electing maniacs like in the movie it's President Camacho. But these days he really feels like such a one-to-one comparison to Trump in many ways, in that he is at least kind of relatable, and it feels human to the people he's presiding over. And it's yeah, I certainly can't call Trump relatable, but for a long time, back when Obama was elected president, I had this recurrent feeling of, yeah, he's a great leader, and I'm thankful to have him as my president. But does he really represent the America that I know? And I never really felt that he did. And as soon as Trump came to power, it was a very disquieting feeling of, yeah, he represents America. It's not the America that I'm proud to live in, but he does
Yeah.
represent us.
And
I
when
always
he
felt
still
like
had some
Obama
sense about
really,
him, he was funny too.
Yeah.
Now he's kind of like Mr. Word Salad, and he's not very funny. And it's hard. It's also hard now that we know like he did all the you know assaults and all that stuff, and he's covering it up.
Wait, who are you talking about? Who are you
Donald
talking about?
Trump.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, with the Epstein stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Is that going to be good for Democrats if these Epstein files finally drop and like Mike Johnson just looks ridiculous for covering for these pedophiles, and then Donald
Yeah.
Trump
They
like
need they
has
need to
to
drop
step
it.
down or
There were as far as I can tell, there were some Democratic DNC associated folks that were kind of implicated in these logs, and I would
hey,
say
fuck them too.
burn them to the fucking ground. We are talking about children here. Like again, it's so important to be clear. This is like trafficking children. Like it's the easiest thing to be against. There's nothing easier maybe. This is ruining people's lives. This is assaulting them. Like I'm not for that. Are you for that? Like I don't think any of us are for that. So if there's anyone who's implicated, see you, dude. Like nice knowing you.
Is there any even recovery for American democracy? The fact, like, the fact that the Epstein files could drop and it's like Trump was his best friend and accomplice and used all that blackmail to help him in his business and political career, like all this time. Like, I mean, like, is America salvageable if that
It,
comes out and
it's
people are
like
just like,
a
yeah, we knew he, grabbed him by the wherever. Like, that's our guy anyway, though. It's like, what do you do? It's like Gary Hart had to step out for having like an affair, right? Like how quaint. That was like
yeah.
what almost 50 years ago now, like in the 80s, right? 40 years ago. Um, but like I don't know, like how many MAGA people, like Trump's support has been at like 33% or somewhere mid 30s for like literally 8 years straight. Will he dip any? Will he lose like three
Yeah.
voters in a swing state if the Epstein files
I
implicate
think
him?
that there's a couple of things happening. I think, yeah, some people will see that and they'll see it as the reality that it is, and that will weaken his support. But I think the other thing that's going on is he can't get a sentence out anymore. And it's going to happen to pretty much all of
Trump?
us at one point in
Yeah.
our lives. If should we be so lucky as to live to our old age, we will be less able to form sentences. Um, that's gonna hurt him because he's supposed to be the strong man, right? And he's supposed to be so silly and do the Trump dance and stuff. If he can't do that stuff anymore, then he's gonna look really weak. But the issue is this: it's like a video game. So the looks like the final boss is Donald Trump. It's not. The final boss is people like Peter Thiel, and he's the one that got JD Vance to where he is today, right? And he's represents a concentration of
Do you
wealth and
think he's got that
power.
much power though?
Yeah, I mean,
Do you think
just
he's got that much power though?
look at what
Like he's
Palantir is
got
doing right
wealth, but
now. I
like
mean,
if
it's kind of all there. It's just the ability to like
what's all
monitor
there though?
people and control
What's he
them,
trying to
and
do?
yeah, I just think it's like
I get the monitoring part. But where does the control come in?
it's trying to create a permanent underclass and to I guess control dissident behavior, dissident thought, dissident, this and that. And you kind of have seen that, right? Like we've seen people getting visited by the FBI, like, oh, hey, we saw you were in the crowd at this event, and what's going on? And do you how do you feel about immigrants? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that part's kind of fucked up. But I don't know. I feel like our culture though, like even though you have a bunch of money, like Elon Musk, kind of like burned his kind of cred very fast.
Mm.
Even like Twitter is not as successful as it used to be. People are selling his cars. I guess he's trying to get $1 trillion from Tesla now as some kind of like salary package or whatever. Which I don't even know. Like at this point, like how are the shareholders of Tesla like going along with this anymore? Like they're not selling cars anymore. They're all just like bought up in just this unrealistic stock value of Tesla, which has no bearing in the reality that they're like number 15 in the amount
Yeah.
of cars they produce or something like that. There's like all these, but they have like more stock value than all the other car companies combined or something like that. Like it makes no sense. The stock market is kind of a sham in that regard, but like Tesla as a company, like why are they keeping him around? Like, hasn't he ruined Tesla's entire market share? Liberals don't want the car, conservatives don't want electric cars anyway. Broad strokes there, but the point remains.
He's the king of AI right now, or maybe not. But that the whole company is riding on the AI hype, the AI hype wave that is
Yeah.
controlling a
Do you
lot
think
of
that's
what's
a
going
bubble
on right now.
though?
I
Do you
do.
think it's a
I
bubble of all just like insider trading and they're just, selling stocks and then selling chips and then buying stocks with the value that, it's like, to me, it seems like, and these data centers being so big and expensive and like wasteful of energy, to me, it seems like it is like a dot-com kind of bubble. Like, like
Yeah,
if you look at like the stock market growth, it's like we would have like 1% growth until you add in all of these AI companies and like all of the amount of money that they're, just some would say bubbleiciously inflating. All of our GDP growth, like for the most part, especially with these tariffs now, kind of like stalling things out and stagnating things. Like, I mean, it's kind of like we're like all of the stock market is this like AI boom.
I
I
think
don't
we're
think
about
it's
to
going to.
find out if AI is real or not. But we're still at a point where if you do a Google search and it gives you an AI result and you click the link,
Oh, it's worthless.
yeah, you see
Yeah.
it's just like stale data, not accurate. It misunderstood your
Yeah.
Yeah.
query.
Right.
That's not what regular people understand to be artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I feel like AI is going to stay around and is actually going to transform the entire job market. But I also do feel as though it isn't going to be quite the speedy paradigm shift that a lot of people anticipated. I really feel like I need to apologize for my screen stealing puppy here. He's a bit of a distraction, but he's a
Upstaging us.
wonderful little dude. His name is Butters for anyone who didn't previously hear. But yeah, I've been really encouraged by just how far or just how not far the world of text generation has come, and have been kind of surprised by comparatively just how much more image generation and video generation and even music generation have improved in the last couple years, and those are things that scare me a lot. But when you look at what happens when you try to tell AI to produce an essay, I feel like it's still falling into the same holes that it did back in 2022 and has hardly changed at all. And I don't know if it's just that language is the toughest nut to crack, but it especially with those LLMs, it really feels like those might be a bubble, and they've exhausted the point of possible improvement. It's been really interesting to see what's happened with Grok because there was a period where it felt like Musk and his allies were putting their hand on the scale a little bit and trying to make it say more right leaning shit, and it was just like doing pro-Nazi content and all this just crazy, absurd shit. And something that I enjoy about Twitter every time I go on is that Grok is constantly fact-checking Republicans.
Yeah, and Elon Musk himself.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's I like you really feel like he tried to combat that for a bit, and it was just making the problem even worse. And now it just is routinely coming to Democrats' side and saying, no, actually, this, for example, with the Obama White House story, I'm not sure if you guys heard that, but one of the ways that Republicans are trying to say, oh, here's why what Trump is doing to the White House is okay, is by pointing out that Obama oversaw some renovations to the White House back in 2009 that Bush had approved and that were mostly just renovations and things that were necessary to be done anyway. So it really isn't a one-to-one comparison. But Grok keeps pointing that out for people, and just all of the figures that conservatives have dead wrong. Whenever somebody says, "Hey, Grok," it's like, yeah, this is not true at all.
We need to check if Grok has made any deposits into Ben's bank account. Stat.
Yeah, you've been bombed. I had one more note. How do you guys like converse with people? Do you find yourself getting into political discussions much? Like me personally, I feel like kind of going with like the comment we were talking about earlier about not being surprised that Trump won this last time. But like I just feel like most of the people that probably have voted, like certainly most of the people I know that voted for Obama twice probably like just probably don't vote anymore at all. And I feel like I have some conservative friends, and it's like for me, it's like easy to not talk about politics because like my day job is kind of politics, and I'm just constantly scrolling endlessly and tweeting jokes about it. So I'm like really good about not bringing it up and not, like when the conversation comes up, I divert it away because I'm like, I don't want to talk about this. I sat all day, doom scrolling. So
Yeah.
trying to get a break. But on the other hand, it's like, it's like, do you argue with people? I used to argue with people back in like 2015, 16, like Facebook comments and stuff like that. But now, like, I just don't
Same.
do any of it. And like, I wonder if it's like, is that good or bad for democracy that we're so apolitical? Like America kind of always has been when you consider like how many how many scholars and cultural people in countries like France, they'll get into politics and it's more of a noble, like endeavor to like be involved in politics. But in America, like our celebrities, like, they pay millions of dollars to press people to have no political spin whatsoever on any aspect of their lives or
Yeah.
anything they say. And here it's like almost impolite to have a political opinion, how do you feel about that? What are your conversations with people generally like?
I have a very hard time shying away from politics myself. I feel like, especially as Trump has politicized things that routinely never were political, I'll find myself in
Yeah.
the. I keep going back to the gym, but it's a really interesting display of the politics in our country, and
What gym do you go to?
this
It's like a
this
salon
this
where
yeah
you're
this
just debating the merits and topics of the day.
Go ahead and dox yourself, Ben.
it's this local LA fitness that I go to, and it's funny every time
Okay.
because I try to force these political conversations in the sauna a lot of the time because I know that so many of the people there are apolitical and they routinely fall back in arguments like the term thought stopping cliche. Where they'll just say things like, "Oh, all politicians are bad." Da da da. I'm struggling to think of
Mm-hmm.
another example right now, but there's this very common thread of apoliticism that I'll encounter there, and it's not a whole lot of people feel very strongly one way or the other. But I'll be sitting there sometimes wondering, like, what is there even to talk about if we don't get into politics? And the only answer people really have is the game. Like, I'll talk entertainment a lot of the time. I don't exclusively bring up the politics, but it's, pretty inescapable a lot of the time, and I'll truly just be sitting to myself wondering, like, what really is there to bring up that's relevant to all of us that isn't political in any way, and I'll struggle
Yeah.
sometimes.
Well, now everything gets so politicized.
Yeah.
It's like you're just looking at somebody, hey, you like democracy? I don't know.
Right, right.
You know, I,
Mm,
I feel like I have a tendency when people, I feel like I kind of ruin it for people a lot because I've spent like a freakishly weird amount of time like reading Wikipedia. So like I don't necessarily get political, but someone will like say something and it's like, let me rant at you for like 5 or 10 minutes and explain everything I know that's like about like the subject that you're bringing up. Or, it's like, for instance, like if one example at the top of my head is when people are like, oh, it's like Democrats are the party of like the Confederates in the Civil War. It's like, let me take 15 minutes and teach you the history of how like the parties have shifted multiple times since then. And these are, the power base of the Confederate is like the power base of the Republican Party today, Senator
gotcha.
the Deeps, it's like, but again, it's like, not very many people read as much history as I do. So I feel like I personally make it not fun for people to like really debate with me if they, especially people like, if they can't name who ran for president in 2000,
Yeah,
it's like, it's not going to be a great debate anyway or conversation anyway. It's like I think the idea that everyone's opinions is equal is like not a good thing for us to have
yeah,
as a value because opinions are not equal. And some
right,
people read Wikipedia way too much like I do. And just have a much more bigger grasp of history or something. But I don't know if I necessarily make it fun for conservatives. They probably regret it sometimes if they start arguing about something.
Politics are an everyday subject for me.
yeah,
I work with people with disabilities. I work with marginalized people and have done so for many, many, many years now. Um, it's something that for me, it's like inescapable. I go home sometimes. I mean, there have been times where I've just gone home and I've just cried because I have a situation that's way better than someone I'm working with, and they got it really
Hmm.
rough. And so for me, like I try to enjoy my life as much as possible, but something that ultimately robs me of some amount of joy is just the fact that people are out there like struggling working really hard, doing everything right, and kind of getting stomped down. And so, like, when I think about it, it's like it's just concerning. And I have two young kids, so I think about, like, what if my kids come out as gay or trans? Like, are they going to be facing this world that just like automatically hates them, this automatic hatred? Like, how can I not talk about that? How can I not talk about, like, where's like, what's happening with compassion? Why is that in such a deficit right now? You know, so those are like some of the things that kind of like worry me, keep me up, keep me from like truly letting go. This is what happens with people that do this kind of work. Like, we all burn out.
Yeah.
It's
Do you
it's
find all
it's
those people
100% part of
vote?
it.
Do you think all
What's
those
that?
people that you talk to or work with, do you think all the people
No.
you talk to or
So
work
many of them are
with
so
vote?
busy in their
That like
lives.
they're even active for themselves?
So many of them are so busy in their own lives and have like so many hurdles to clear in any given day, week, month, or year that they're a lot less active in terms of voting. And that has remained true throughout the various populations I've worked with. They just got so much going on in their lives. And that's one of the hardest things is like people telling them like how lazy they are and like how much they're pieces of shit for things that they really can't change about themselves, or things that they don't want to change and shouldn't have to change. That has a weight. There might be election day, but they might be dealing with some severe depression because they go outside and people are like, "No, you can't look like that. No, you can't talk like that. No, you can't say that. That's how you are. That's some way that you want to be." And and then we like sit here and we're like, "Oh, well, why aren't they activated voters? Why don't you just like do better?" Like, I don't have those kinds of pressures for the most part. When I go out there, I can just be me. It's okay. But there's a lot of people out there who they're not given societal permission to be them. And it is tough. So politics are like every day for me. I try not to bring them up every second of every day. I definitely, like Ben, I touch on the entertainment side of things quite often, and I like to make it silly when I can, but it's been harder and harder lately to be silly because of what's going on. And I
Yeah.
just feel like, it's it's okay to stand up for people who are not who don't have all the same characteristics as you, and that's something that we need a little bit more of.
It's interesting how there are kind of two sides to that coin you mentioned, where some people are just so busy with their lives that they really don't even have the time to care about politics. But I'll often argue that it's a luxury to not have political opinions, and it's
Yeah, that's
it
true.
really, it really, it really does go both ways because when people say, "Oh, I don't really care about politics. That shouldn't get in the way of our friendship," it's a real privilege to be able to feel like politics don't matter when they affect so many aspects of our lives. But yeah, I don't really stop enough to consider the people who are just so busy working each day that they don't have time to turn on the news and don't have time to understand how these issues are affecting them and which leaders are the ones that deserve their votes.
Or even people who don't work, right? They receive Social Security, disability, they're receiving supplemental income. It's not enough. Maybe that one extra bus trip is super hard, or maybe they have chronic pain and they can't get out the door. Maybe they've got some kind of issue that prevents them from getting out there. That again, they're just not an activated voter, but it's not for a lack of wanting to. It's
Yeah.
it's actually the real circumstances of their lives that prevents them from participating.
Yeah, I'm sympathetic to that because I think everyone should vote. But like, I don't know. I guess it's hard to like I guess kind of going back to like what we were talking about earlier, like being a white millennial to vote straight ticket Democrat, even though the government doesn't fuck me over. It doesn't really help me necessarily because I'm not
Yeah.
super poor or super rich. But it's like I always vote straight ticket Democrat. I have like the opinions on all the issues for the poor and the disadvantaged and stuff like that. But then it's like just the low percentage of voting in America. It's just so hard to have like sympathy that so many people don't vote, like 50, at least a third, sometimes as much as like 50% in the midterms. It's like so hard to like,
Yeah.
especially people that get fucked over by the government, that they're not voting, or they're not voting for Democrats because it's like, not unelectably liberal enough. And it's like, the issues with like trans people, gay people, minorities of all kinds. It's like there's one party that like, even though they're not perfect, it's like Democrats, they might be a little more lip service than action, but it's like compared to Republicans that like delete all mentions of anything gay or trans. They're trying to have
Yeah.
like gay conversion therapy again, like legalize that. Like it's just like it's so far backwards instead of the status quo. It's like the status quo is definitely better than fascism, and like where does fascism ultimately go? Sending a bunch of these minority groups to camps, right? It's like if you don't vote, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's hard for me, I guess, sometimes to sympathize with people who don't vote and don't do the action when I'm doing the action for like all these people. Because again, like my life is pretty calm and not really touched by the government in most regards, but I feel like I do that for the people that really need it. And then it's almost like a letdown again when like Kamala Harris, such a better candidate, such better, Hillary
Yeah.
Clinton with her like long list of plans to help all these marginalized groups of people. It's like, well, none of that happened. And like America just wasted essentially, 12 years of just flip flopping Trump terms of just undoing everything that the Democrats like did that like made, they weren't perfect, but it did make life better for a lot of these groups of people in very concrete, substantial ways, slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping that more people who can't or haven't or have had a hard time to kind of get activated and mobile and voting and out there will do it again. The disability movement, the disability rights movement had a great time when people were like literally throwing themselves on the steps of courthouses and being like, "Hey, we need resources, we need support. We're real people. We're human beings too." And we're kind of like many decades away from when that happened at this point, and it's like it's almost time for like a renewal.
Yeah.
Um, it's definitely a good thing for as many people to be activated as possible and to be able to participate. Just sometimes it's a matter of resources and sometimes it's a matter of community, Like are those of us who can do things like drive, are we offering to, I don't know, drive
Right.
people to polling locations and things like that? Are we volunteering our time? Those things really help also. And I think it's just showing up for our community is just good for everyone, regardless. Like it doesn't matter what party you are. Showing up for your community is all there is for me, at least, like politically.
And it's also one of the easiest ways to keep from falling into despair over everything. Just realizing that you're a part of a community and that there are other people who share the same worries that you do. Because it's very easy to just turn on the news and know, oh my God, this is bad, this is bad, this needs to change, this
Yeah.
needs to change. And the happiest that I ever feel is when I actually feel like I'm making the small difference that I can and being a part of the community around me. And the most miserable I ever feel is when I'm just mired in all of the awful news that's coming in.
Yep. Yep. I think we would all do well to like give a few bucks to the food banks if we can right now to try to support, because it looks like the help is not going to be coming from our government at this time.
Yeah, do you think that'll result though in like more votes for Democrats? I'm like always struck by like the meat sauce, the sausage making of politics and like the vote
Yeah.
getting. But it's like, yeah, it's like all these people on food stamps. It's like a lot of welfare has to do with farmers and they're getting fucked over. But it like, will they vote Democrats for the first time in their lives in these rural red counties? Like Republicans have just ruined your livelihood. Like all these people on food stamps and like all the welfare programs, people who like national parks, like you just insert anything that Doge ruined. Like, well, government employees that are probably a little more conservative overall, will they vote for Democrats? Or is it just, no matter what, they're still going to vote Republican. They'll vote a third Trump term, whatever it takes because of like guns, abortion, the Bible, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, is there hope for, is it all like a specific candidate that will change things for Democrats? Or
It
I don't
can't be
know.
just
I'm
one. There's
just
got
so
to be a lot
frustrated by
more than
that.
one. Um,
Yeah, I mean, because Obama was kind of like the one, and then like 2010 came around and lost like 40 seats in the House, and then you had Mitch McConnell in the Senate for the Senate Majority Leader for a while, and I don't know, I guess, but like, I don't know, are Democrats capable of a grassroots up, like just great candidates all across the board
I believe they
nationally
are.
and
I
like
believe they
all
are.
kinds of red states?
I believe that they need to hit the ground and canvas hard. Now, gerrymandering is an issue, but we're kind of addressing that, right? With this in California especially, right? We've got one proposition on the ballots, and voting is going to be happening in a few days. And it's basically just a cynical election, right? To be like, hey, come and sue us and tell us like gerrymandering is
Right.
bad so that other states can't do it too. Otherwise, we're gonna run the table, and so you know, cynical politics can be useful sometimes.
It does feel a lot right now like we're in the moment that preceded the last progressive era, where we're experiencing a Gilded Age like level of inequality, and both sides are getting more and more fed up with it. We've still got our disagreements about which candidates are better to solve these issues, but I do feel like we're headed toward a real paradigm shift at some point soon when and we reach a general mass of people who are just so completely fed up with the state of affairs and the fact that we're approaching real trillionaires in this world, while so many of us are struggling to afford groceries. I think that yeah, we are coming toward a real breaking point, and that's a prospect that excites me.
Yeah, get some candidates out there knocking on doors and saying, "I want let's make food more affordable. These are the plans that I want to do in this community, our community, to make food more affordable." And you will find a very popular candidate. I
Yep,
guarantee it.
yep,
Fingers crossed on that. That might be a good place to end it. We've been going for
yep.
like an hour and a half. We got the World Series going on. Either of you guys watching the World Series?
The last World
No, it's
Series that
Taco Tuesday. I'm gonna go get tacos tonight.
Oh,
the
Taco
last World
Tuesday. Yeah.
Series the last World Series that I watched was in 2009, and 2008 was the one that the Phillies won. They made it twice in a row, but that was the end of my real involvement in sports. Sadly, I've never been much of a sports person,
Oh, really? Okay.
but it's
Well,
I'm
some good
glad that
baseball going on right now.
I keep seeing
Otani is
posts
like
about it. I feel bad that I could
Otani.
never
Yeah.
participate in the zeitgeist around it, because
Oh,
both
yeah.
times that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I'm just like I don't really watch that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, Philly's had some good moments lately.
Yeah,
I
but
live in Missouri, and so watching the Super Bowl was very sad because like the Chiefs just got destroyed. Lost some money on some bets on that because all of my bets assumed that the Chiefs would score some points instead of no points, just about. But yeah, well, good to talk to you guys.
you
Thanks
too.
everybody for listening. You guys, any last comments? Any say on eras before you go?
You have any closing thoughts,
Yeah,
Victor?
please, if you have the means, donate to a food bank. I think that
I donated
is
$50 the
showing,
other day.
yeah, showing that we have if we have the ability, if we can give some of our power to other people to give them nourishment, that's a great thing. Feels good too.
I appreciate the
Yeah,
push.
and those food banks. Yeah, the food banks often you can get like for every dollar you can get like 10 meals or something like that.
Yeah.
So like the it really goes
Yeah,
far.
when they can buy in bulk. Yeah.
And like those bulk pricing or like the donations and everything. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for talking to you guys.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Check out both of our satire
Yeah.
sites, the Halfway Post. Definitely check there. And have a great week, everybody. See ya.